Welcome to Super Godzilla Special Edition. So this game's really good, but I have decided to restore it and some of the audio up to a higher quality, staying very faithful to the original, of course. With me today is a Raving Loon, a Godzilla expert, if I'm correct.
To some degree, yes.
So, the mechanics of this game don't matter, so let's talk about Godzilla lore. Apparently, Godzilla's way into collecting items and rubbing up on energy stations. Is this true, yes or no?
Yes, this is very important.
Alright, yeah, and I would say that covers the gameplay mechanics pretty well, so we don't need to talk about those ever again.
There are some who would call them counterintuitive, but they really do fit quite naturally once you fit them into the larger narrative context of the franchise.
Oh, absolutely. Godzilla loves plodding around. Yeah, that's Super Godzilla's way into plodding around the city not doing jack shit.
It's a game that's being made near the end of the Showa era of the franchise, which is really designed to incorporate the use of both that and the earlier Heisei series. When you see the premise that is set before us, be fairly typical, straightforward. You know, there's an outside alien force that has coordinated all sorts of various destructive powers to concentrate on Japan and cause it ne'er-do-well, and Godzilla is being called forth to act as the hero. That's pretty typical from, 70s era plot.
It is. When did that happen, where they switched Godzilla from being the bad guy to the good guy? That seemed to happen fairly early.
It's a thing that came and went, largely shifting with the attitudes of the time. It all follows kind of naturally from, Godzilla was inspired as a response to the horrors of the Second World War, the damage that was caused, how it felt to live in a country under siege, and go from that into now a world that lives under, fear of the atomic bomb. And so you have Godzilla originating as, this great source of terror, this destructive power that cannot be controlled. But then as the dust settles, it kind of comes to be understood that while this thing is very, very dangerous, very powerful, it's certainly something worth being afraid of, it also has great power to defend, to protect, to create, to enforce peace. And so you have Godzilla as this thing that is certainly dangerous and intimidating and alarming, but at the same time ultimately sort of well-natured.
Gets shot at by tiny tanks like an idiot, and occasionally will just plop into a building, rub up. Oh, here we go. This is another classic of the Godzilla genre, the rub up on a generator scene. Oh, that's the good shit. That's what Godzilla came for. So
the design of that particular energy release machine actually dates back to an early cut of Godzilla Rates Again. It's a prop that has existed, although it's practically an in-joke within the studio at this point, to try and work it into the background of every product that they can.
Really? Is it just the design is ridiculous, or
it's just a very
kind of have a thing for it?
Item. It's just sort of caught on. Just something to work on. It's sort of a signature of the props department in that case.
I do like playing Godzilla video games, though, because you get to feel the vulnerability of Godzilla and the fact that he can get hurt by actually just about anything. He could have a tiny tumble. He could walk into a rock. There's a lot of things that can hurt Godzilla, it turns out. He's very mortal. You can hurt his feelings. It takes a good amount of HP off. Yeah.
Note the shift in camera position here, where until now, Godzilla was always being filmed from below, facing up, making sure that he dominates the frame with intimidating size, when it's just him against the city and its surroundings. But now that we have encountered Ghidorah, it's moved to a more even level, now that Godzilla's in the face of one of his peers.
So Ghidorah's like a flying Hydra, huh? It's pretty fucked up. I gotta give him credit. I don't know where that came from.
Directly inspired by the Hydra, it's just that the limitations of costume design and puppetry meant that having a full 8 heads would have been absolutely infeasible. So they eventually cut it down to more manageable 3 and a pair of wings.
So it's 3 a pair of wings but no hands.
3 and a pair of wings.
So did they just jam his arms in the other heads?
Well, in that case, it is actually, the suit is large enough to contain 3 puppeteers who collaborate. If you search around online, you can find cross-sectional diagrams of the thing and see how they all fit together.
Holy
it's all
shit.
remarkably elegant.
I'm just thinking now about 3 men in a very hot suit working together to make a puppet. Oh my god. I want to see that. Just without the suit. I want them to mime it out.
Just to see them in the scaffold, the framework, see like the early garbage bag test of the material.
Yeah, and just take out all like the really nice looking stuff or, you know, anything and just have it be 3 men rubbing up on each other, flailing around wildly with puppeteering equipment.
It was not a job that was suffered well, very, very far from prestigious. Like, naturally, you're not getting any FaceTime for it. It was very frequently traded out. Sometimes, several times within the shooting of a single scene, they would need to find new Ghidorah puppeteers to wear the suit.
Hey kid, you want to be a Ghidorah? No. Ah, he heard. Get him anyway, boys. Oh god. So, man, those laser effects too. That was another thing real early. Were the special effects pretty decent for the time in Godzilla's?
It varied in case. The miniature work was generally of decent quality. It was another thing where, you know, the budgets of the individual films would vary based on the popularity of the franchise. Basically, near the beginning of each of the main eras, there's a surge in popularity that allows a lot of money to go in and a lot of effort to go in, and you get that payback in the practical effects. As I mentioned earlier, this was happening fairly late in its respective series, so you can see a lot of the holes starting to emerge where some of the actual materials are starting to age. And that's even before, you know, they then have to proceed to digitize them for the video game conversion.
No, and that's why you can tell they sunk so much budget into this game with all 5 combat animations. Godzilla doesn't really ever get more, too. He just kind of slams his dumb fucking head into other things.
It's sort of a nice fourth wall when it's dealing with the level of stock footage that was necessary in order to achieve any of these as a finished product.
The headbutt is so fucking good. It's just, duh. I'll be there in a minute, duh. And just punch people with his tiny, stubby fucking arms. Godzilla, you could not box for your life. Holy shit. Learn to kick, you idiot.
There is residual data on an early beta of the cartridge that incorporates the drop kick that was showcased in Godzilla vs. Megalon, but that ultimately had to be cut for time. They couldn't finish implementing it. Just a few frames of animation.
It wasn't possible to be animated. It's the same reason that Godzilla could never be female. It's too damn hard to animate. But, yeah, so a lot of the stuff in this game, there's actually multiple animations for things. But it's really weird the way they do it, because most of the time it's just like there's a long animation, and then there's a shorter version of the same animation, but there's no fucking rhyme or reason to which one they use, so it's exciting. It adds to the roguelike experience that we discussed earlier when we talked about all the game mechanics.
The developers behind Super Godzilla coined the term of a sort of virtual director that they used to describe the script which handles the dynamic arrangement of these animations on a case-by-case basis.
And just by looking at it, you can see it basically is a movie. It looks exactly like, if not better, honestly.
Very tightly crafted cinematic experience. This is really came at just the right time for the hardware to be capable of showcasing this kind of visual. You can see there one of the heads being removed. That is in itself a case of, of plot needing to bend to the needs of the production crew, where they could no longer get 3 Ghidorah puppeteers at a time. So they had to coil it back for a while and have a fair span of scenes with just the 2 heads on Ghidorah. They were able to move it in seamlessly, though. Many people do not begin to realize that could be the case until it's pointed out to them. Excellent score on this one.
Yeah, the score mechanics are really obvious. I mean, I really shouldn't have to explain it. Obviously, Destroy, I got a 0 there. That's important. Don't forget that. That's a major...
Very good for the pacifist.
Yeah, so the next cutscene, Ghidorah just fucking gets beamed away. I don't know what the deal with that is. That dumb idiot has wings? I guess the head he took off controlled the wings? I don't know. I don't get it.
Wings were usually the responsibility of the central puppeteer, so it's quite possible that this was again a case of needing to change the script in response to the effects team.
Yeah, they brought in the tractor beam. Getting a 3rd puppeteer was expensive, so they just built a tractor beam and mounted it on the ceiling. Duh. So, I'm guessing it just was because it was originally created in Japan that Japan is always the first target. Much the same as a lot of American film bases everything around America.
Yeah, just a simple matter of, keeping things set in a place where your original core audience is comfortable. And again, it speaks to that initial inspiration from the horrors of war that initially tied it together. From there, it's just kind of carried forward as an initial thing. Indeed.
This goes to show that the localization team couldn't figure out how to get that into one text box, which is an impressive feat that really goes to show the limitations of the kerning of the current system. That was considered to be revised for the special edition, but we decided there were more important things on the team. We really had to keep it true, and we thought that was a nice detail that the die-hard Super Godzilla fans would miss.
Yeah, sometimes you just need to maintain fidelity to the source material. There's something that just sort of become memorable in and of themselves, even if they were technically mistakes in the initial production. They just, end up working out so well in motion that they just become the product itself. The art is not complete until it has been seen by the audience and experienced.
So, general response to most of the characters in the story of this game is, something's going wrong. Fucking throw Godzilla at it. I don't give a shit. Drop my ice cream cone. Get Godzilla. Ugh.
Again,
unfortunately, now they're throwing Godzilla at Godzilla.
See, we have the beginnings of setting up a scenario that's going to speak to themes of deterrence and standoff that were, of course, a great question on people's minds in the early 90s with the collapse of the Soviet Union and the resulting change in the balance of power in the globes. America was now uncontested. This is